when you see Saudi Arabia become a full participant in Enbridge, this is a very big deal. It's a program that was designed by the United Arab Emirates, who just joined BRICS, along with Saudi Arabia, China, Hong Kong, and Singapore. These countries they all realize that trading on the SWIFT and trading in dollars and treasuries, putting reserves in treasuries, is foolish. And we've proven that by not only sanctioning Russian assets, but confiscating them and using them to buy weapons from the military-industrial complex and send them to the Ukraine to fight the country we stole them from. This is a problem. So this acceleration, it's happening and it's real.
Recent developments are shaking the foundations of the global economy, and you need to know what's happening. Saudi Arabia, a pivotal player in the oil market, has made a groundbreaking decision that could spell disaster for the US economy. They've become a full participant in Project Enbridge, a cross-border payment system designed to bypass the US dollar, joining forces with China, Hong Kong, and Singapore. This comes on the heels of Saudi Arabia rejecting an invite to the G7 meeting, signaling a major shift in global alliances. In the first 4 months of this year, India has bought 1.5 times the amount of gold it purchased all last year, and $80 billion in bilateral agreements are now being settled in local currencies instead of the dollar. This unprecedented move is part of a broader strategy to create a new settlement currency comprised of 60% local currencies and 40% gold. With the US dollar losing its dominance, the implications are huge. The framework for this new economic order is already in place, and it could lead to the collapse of the US economy as we know it.
There were a few meetings that happened recently in Russia, and I think that's probably where things should be focused on, at least for now, because there are some very big things that came out of it. You know, first and foremost, you had a meeting in Novigrad just a couple of weeks ago, and it coincided with the G7 meeting where the Royal Crown Prince was invited to the meeting, and he turned it down. He said he had other things he needed to do. So he turns down a meeting to the G7. And at the same, now this is just a few days after they did not re-sign the exclusivity deal with the United States, the Petro deal, where now in essence they will openly sell oil in other currencies. But they turned down the meeting to the G7 and sent their finance ministers to the meeting in Russia. And this is a very big deal because what came out of these meetings is anything but trivial. You had how many people? 21,000 people that showed up at these meetings, first and foremost. Wow. And $80 billion worth of bilateral agreements were struck on the sidelines at these meetings. And you know, these are deals that used to settle in dollars that are no longer settled in dollars. So you have 139 countries represented at these meetings, $80 billion in bilateral deals that are settled in local currencies. 59 nations, we are told after this meeting, plan to join BRICS. You're dealing with a massive growing chorus of countries that are finding safety in numbers. They talked a lot about the new settlement currency, which won't be a unified currency, but they basically called it the unit, and they've given it a name, and it was spoken publicly about by the head of the BRICS New Development Bank, who had 2 meetings with Putin. And, you know, for 3 years now, I've been talking about the comments made over and over and over again by Sergei Glaziev, the Russian finance minister and the minister of economic development for the Eurasian Economic Union, another entity that will join the BRICS 100%. In fact, there was recently a call by the president of Belarus to join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the Eurasian Economic Union into the BRICS. I've been saying that for 3 years. They're all the same countries, and they will join. But Glaziev is the architect of all of this. And originally, he talked about a basket of currencies and a basket of commodities. Now, it became very obvious to me, since the very beginning when he said that gold would be central to this basket, because the BIS reclassified it as the world's only other Tier 1 asset, the BIS being the Bank of International Settlements, the most influential bank in the world, the central bank, or central bank as it's called, they said, yeah, gold is the only other tier one asset. And when you look at the massive acquisition by the central banks, which is reaching record over record over record, but maybe even more telling than that is the repatriation. You look at a country like India, who bought more gold in the first 4 months of this year, 1.5 times the amount of gold they bought all of last year. But they just repatriated 100 metric tons from the Bank of England. You see, all of these banks would leave their gold both at the New York Fed, which is in essence a proxy for the COMEX, and the Bank of England, which is a proxy for the London Bullion Metals Association. So it would be safely held in these central bank holdings and the ability to transact on the world's primary exchanges, which are losing legitimacy. And I think losing legitimacy fast. And, we're seeing delivery upon delivery upon delivery coming off the exchanges, where here again, another 3 million ounces were delivered in gold off the COMEX for the June contract, following massive deliveries, 500 million worth that we saw 3 weeks ago. All of them, most of them, looks like they're heading eastward towards China. And, a lot of people don't know the CME, which is the COMEX, created a contract in 2015 that allows gold to be delivered to Brinks Hong Kong. They created a contract that does this. So the Brinks Hong Kong vault is COMEX. So these bars get delivered to Brinks Hong Kong and then trucked to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. And 4 Fridays ago, they were kilo bars, $500 million worth. And these kilo bars are the mini contracts. They're not the big COMEX bars, but that's exactly what the Shanghai Gold Exchange trades in. So we're seeing gold not only accumulated by the central banks and the sovereign wealth funds, but repatriated and delivered off the exchanges, removing counterparty risk. But anyways, going back to the unit, they said, and they publicly said this, they being the head of the BRICS New Development Bank and Putin and Glaziev, that it's been decided that this new settlement currency, using the project mBridge, we'll talk about that in a moment, will be a basket of 60% local currencies of the BRICS nations, 40% gold. And it's been decided. And this is a massive deal, huge deal. Project mBridge, which we were just told at the beginning of June that Saudi Arabia became a full participant in, is a cross-border payment system using digital currencies of all of these nations. And it sidesteps the SWIFT system, that vehicle that allows these countries to be sanctioned. And it's no coincidence that the first 2 trades that we saw in 2023, the test trades, the pilot trades, were for gold and oil. China trading digital yuan with the United Arab Emirates, cross-border, settling with these countries in yuan, and they can send those yuan right back to the Shanghai Gold Exchange for immediate delivery in gold bars. And in fact, the combined volume, by the way, over the last 75 days in the Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Shanghai Futures Exchange, it's up over 200% and has now surpassed the volume on COMEX. It's now the number 2 most relevant gold trading hub on the planet. And this is not to be taken lightly. So basically what they came out and said was that these countries, every one of the countries, will be able to use their own central bank digital currency and settle with other countries, trade with one another in their local currencies. But the settlement part of it can then be done in the new BRICS settlement currency, which they called for a meeting in September in Shanghai, or I think it was Shanghai, it's in China somewhere, where they're going to discuss the new unit. And in essence, that sets the table for it to be introduced and brought out in the big meeting in October. But they have told us, you have the finance minister of Russia, you have Putin, and you have the head of the BRICS New Development Bank, which is a big deal. She said, we love it. It's 40% gold, 60% currency from the BRICS countries. So when you see all of the countries that are repatriating their gold, where India buys 1.5 times the amount they did all of last year and brought back 100 tons, where just a month ago, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and about 7 African countries repatriated all their gold from the New York Fed. That's COMEX. And remember, in 2017, the Bundesbank from Germany, Hungary, Turkey, Poland, Austria, the Dutch National Bank, the Czech National Bank, they all repatriated their gold from the New York Fed and the Bank of England. There's been a massive buying spree and a massive repatriation spree. And so what we are seeing is the framework Out of this meeting where 21,000 people attended and 139 nations and 80 billion in bilateral deals were signed, 59 nations have pledged to join the BRICS. This is just the very beginning. But when you realize that they are now going to allow these countries to maintain, autonomy, have their own central bank digital currency, trade with one another in their central bank digital currencies, and then settle in the BRICS settlement currency, which will be gold and a basket of other currencies in the BRICS, the framework is there. And so this de-incentivizes all of the Southern Hemisphere to continue holding treasuries. It incentivizes them to hold gold and to accumulate and to repatriate. And that's exactly what we are seeing. So it's a very big deal, man. And when you see Saudi Arabia become a full participant in Enbridge, this is a very big deal. It's a program that was designed by the United Arab Emirates, who just joined BRICS, along with Saudi Arabia, China, Hong Kong, and Singapore. These countries they all realize that trading on the SWIFT and trading in dollars and treasuries, putting reserves in treasuries, is foolish. And we've proven that by not only sanctioning Russian assets, but confiscating them and using them to buy weapons from the military-industrial complex and send them to the Ukraine to fight the country we stole them from. This is a problem. So this acceleration, it's happening and it's real.